Okay, WTO banks.
Yep. Is anybody not ready? Group the consequentialism debate. We have the best interpretation biases. I haven't said with the tie debate. I said states specifically should default to the team that presents a better methodologically able to resolve any of the impacts because the only options that the policy are yes, that more obligations might sound nice in the abstract, but unless we have specific strategy being able to solve them, it is irrelevant within this question. And also just defaulting to what that also justifies things such as like genocide because if we're winning both for the wars, we're winning war impacts on one scenario where we provide better methodologies for being able to solve. That means you ignore the better methodology and just go for the abstract strategy approach. We have no method of being able to solve right line. War and violence are recurring on the other side. The WTO advantage, the trade stuff, the trade stuff, but the China bashing stuff is irrelevant. But we're not going for that scenario. They don't have an independent impact to it. But there is 100% concession throughout the entirety of the debate that the also trade by cemented the credibility of the WTO that outweighs the climate securitization impacts because we're controlling a better internal link to conflict escalation. The zero impact tack in the 2 and R, and I'm not even really sure what impact he's going for, but you can easily vote up in the app resolving all the impacts of the climate securitization and a small risk of warming reps being good and solving for the individual consumption patterns. They don't solve any of the warming without the representation of the 1AC. The ROM says it's all key to individual consumption patterns, which is the only internal link to solve it for warming. There's zero defense to this internal link scenario. The trade impacts means that other nations will never be not intervene within each other because they prefer that economic commerce occurs. Otherwise, they realize the intervention into those nations destroy the goods they perceive as necessary to ensure the own infrastructure. This is a new argument made in the 2 and R means you shouldn't have the leeway and you should give us a whole humongous risk of the trade impact. That's a controlling impact to determine whether or not other nations intervene in each other. That's a passive evidence debates. And then the framing issue in this debate is the counterplan is not able to resolve any of the WTO advantage. Means if we win a small percent risk that warming representations are good, you should default to the massive extinction scenario that is external to any of this debate. Also, they have no alternative being able to resolve the warming rhetoric that is occurring in the status quo. All the evidence is criticizing of the extinction level scenario, the extinction level discourse that is occurring outside the United States, i.e., the roaring evidence specifically gives example the 2009 Copenhagen Accords that occurred in some other international that the entire international community is engaging with in this discourse means that interventions are inevitable in the status quo, and it's only a risk that the app is able to resolve because we lead to a focus of how the individual engages within the international community means they can at least pressure the government not to intervene because they realize that the implications of warming are due to the government's policies and they call for the government to be more effective within their means. Also, the Hardman evidence says that the Pentagon has been using warming rhetoric as a justification since 2003. Means there is 0% risk of any uniqueness for any of the terms within the debate. They say climate discourse leads to war, but again, you cross behind the analysis I did above. It's try and die for the affirmative because we can only hope that we're able to mobilize the public. None of the evidence assumes a world in which climate rhetoric is occurring at the individual level, which evidence indicates is necessary for the mobilization to be able to solve for warming means there's a humongous solvency deficit to the counterplan. The wrong evidence indicates that warming rhetoric doesn't exist and the consumer level. It only exists within the governmental level, and that's the reason that you don't see any movements occurring right now because the status quo is political apathy that exists against warming debates because individuals believe it's not that big of a deal. The evidence indicates a capitalist such as the fossil fuel companies, the ones who are controlling all of the mass media that prevents the message from getting out. The affirmative is able to resolve this through discussions within debate that builds up to forming a coalition being able to solve warming. Also, the affirmative is a call for being able to solve individual practices. They say tech is insufficient, but the Miller evidence indicates that yes, it's sufficient. The banks are investing in the status quo now, and we don't even have to really win this. We just have to win our representations are good. The Cheeseman evidence indicates that technology is key for being able to solve equitable for CO2. Means should you feel trust because we're the only ones reading evidence on this question. They say no reason other countries go along, but the climate evidence is fantastic. And this question says that if other countries will perceive that green technology were to be cheaper due to increasing U.S. investment, making the technology more efficient, that they would never really invest in those technologies. It gives a specific example of India and China. They say no mobilization, but you can cross-by the analysis did about the damning issue in this debate is they have considered the raw evidence that wins us the debate. Their framework justifications only look at language and the detriment of other factors. The argument can't explain how Bush's acts as people type rhetoric prompted an invasion of Iraq in 2003, but no one in Afghanistan in 1979. The reason other factors besides reps determine action and consequences in international situations, economic and political sensations, etc. That is why you should evaluate the plan built solely evaluating the consequences of parent-held responsible role environmental rhetoric they have to be evaluated based on resolving impacts. That also means that there are certain instances when this level of discourse is good, and they have to win a specific link as to why discussions that represent warming representations within debate leads to U.S. interventions with other nations, which is the only impact they're going for. Also, if they go for a war impact, that means they should evaluate the plan because we have a better internal linkage. Let's go to the permutation debate group, but we're not going for which solves all the seventh arguments because we're still defending the 1AC. We don't even have to win the representations all good. We just have to win that we have a vast and bigger internal link into being an internal link and to war because that is the only impact they're extending to the space, but they also have not extended that war interventions into other nations and never least things like the extinction of scenarios or mass violence, which our evidence indicates. They say you're fear-mongering, but our evidence says that it just says that Europe has experienced the same impact of the nations would means that all nations have a reason to be concerned for this and to get involved into being able to solve back for global warming. They say delay interrogation, but the evidence is it's about the Copenhagen Agreement. That means it's inevitable in the status quo. They say xenophobia, that's the status quo, is only a risk that the plan leads to individual movements, let's say, to sell back for government aggression.